Okay, let's see if I can get through this one this time. I want to say something, say some kind words about my friend Austin.
Hey everybody, I was so sorry to hear about Austin's death. He was such a sweet guy, such a warm and genuine person.
Definitely gonna miss you. It was a great pleasure meeting you, hanging out with you, working together. We were roommates for a while.
Shortly after I moved to Austin, I got a job at Vulcan, and um, obviously Austin was one of the first new coworkers to meet, and what ended up becoming a part of the community that I had entered.
Hey, it's Ada. I remember working with Austin at Vulcan.
Obviously, I worked with Austin for years at Vulcan Video and hung out with him, played music with him, all that.
Get to the chopper! Hi. We'll start with meeting Austin. I remember he came into Vulcan to get a movie like he always did. And I asked him what happened to him. He said that this guy wanted to fight him, and when he wouldn't, he punched him. And when he refused to fight him still, he punched him again. So I thought, wow, this guy with two black eyes is pretty cool.
I first met Austin when I was a teenager, and he used to have parties at, I believe it was his house, or maybe he was just there. It was over on Nelray Street or North Loop or something.
He just always had a pretty neutral or kind of positive attitude towards most people. You know, if he'd always introduce you to somebody cool, and he'd say that they were cool, and he seemed to be stoked on it, and just hanging out with him, he never really seemed to focus on negativity. I really appreciated that. That's something I'm gonna try to apply that more in my life.
You know, I have lots of fond memories of the time that I spent with him, most of it working at Vulcan Video. He and I and Miguel were all working a lot of the same shifts back then, and working a lot of shifts, I think, because we were all sort of like hard up for cash, so we were trying to work as many shifts as we could. I remember my trick that I used to do that I think that probably Austin and Miguel would try a lot too, where you would just call the store and say, hey, does anybody want to go home? And somebody always did, so you'd come in and you'd finish out their shift for them and try to make a little bit of extra grocery money or whatever.
I would always steal his food because he'd order takeout through trades with video credits, and then it would just sit on the counter for the entire shift, and he'd take like a bite every 4 hours. So when he wasn't looking, I would go up to his food and start snacking, and he'd always catch me and get real mad at me.
I've just been reminiscing, thinking about all the times we'd be working, watching crazy, kind of stupid movies, and I just always think back of how Austin had something either really fun to say or just maybe even kind of stupid, and I really loved his commentary and just his overall attitude. He was always a very kind of upbeat person, and from my perspective, I really actually kind of adored that about him.
It's very welcoming and open in the sense of just having fun, and he always had such a very impish, coy smile. There was always just kind of that like underlying joke that was present in that I don't know, it was just like you were a part of something that was going on. he was such an important part of that.
Working with him was, well, just really fun.
I remember all kinds of silly shenanigans.
Good example of giggly fun, PG-13 for sure.
There's a story out there that one night we were wearing grown-up diapers while working, and the whole point was to try to pee while we helped the customer. Now, whether that is true or not, just depends on who you ask.
One thing that I'm always gonna remember and forever will think is funny is anytime there was a new lottery ticket or a new bag of chips that would come out, Austin had to be on it. Like, I don't have the best analogy for this because I've never really had to make an analogy about the latest lottery ticket and crappy bag of chips, but man, Austin would flock to that like crazy.
Particularly in my mind was the horrible idea I had that there should be a Vulcan cocktail night. So the employees would, this was led by my bad decisions. I would be like, oh, it's going to be Tom Collins's, or it's going to be margaritas or something. And we would make cocktails in the back and distribute them to the staff, and our customer service skills would decline precipitously from there. It's funny to think about all of the stupid garbage that I got away with while I was working at Vulcan.
So there wasn't much to do on the shift we worked together. So mainly we would just like show each other things on the internet. And I know when I came in to work that he had something good because he'd always try to play it off, but he had this like smirk and he'd do this thing like with his eyebrows. And I knew something ridiculous was coming. But anyway, there was this one day I came in and I like knew he could not wait for me to get in the second I walked through the doors. So I was like, all right, what are we gonna see today? But it turns out the secret shopper had come in. Like, I don't even know who would have called a secret shopper to begin with, but whatever. So the secret shopper came in, and I guess they had come in on one of our shifts together, and we had just gotten that letter. And I don't think anybody has ever been more proud of me for anything in my entire life as Austin was of the review of only me. It only focused on me because somehow the secret shopper was so insanely disgusted to their moral core about my armpit hair coming out of the tank top I was wearing while I served them, that they didn't mention the movies, they didn't mention how the store was laid out. It was a whole paragraph about my armpit hair, and Austin loved it. He hung it up on the wall and made sure that every single customer knew that this had happened. And that just like summed Austin up, how the like little absurd things would just like delight him so much. And he just like, you know, a normal store, he was above me. A normal store, I would get in trouble. And instead, like, there he was, showing every single person he could.
He moved in with me, and that was really fun. Like, living with Austin was just like that movie Point Break. And of course he was Keanu, you know that.
The night we just hung out at the old compound playing foosball and took turns calling up, I think it was KUT at the time, and requesting only bands that started with the word black. So Black Sabbath, moved on from there, even got Black Panda thrown in there. fact that that was the way to entertain ourselves while playing foosball and having some beers was a good memory.
Me, him, and Richard worked this Wednesday day shift together. Me and Austin were not allowed to show movies anymore. Probably something to do with Pinata Survival Island, but I mean, check it out for yourselves and you can decide if it's that bad. But so they listened to a lot of music together. I always thought I knew about music until I worked with them, but I guess not.
I really liked his motivation for music, man. Like, he always had to be around music or a part of it, listening to it, making it, talking about it. Another thing that I'm always gonna just kind of remember about him and be grateful that was part of his personality. That's something that's always gonna remain with me.
And then he'd always have stacks of CDs over by the CD player, and I used to just borrow them because there were stacks of them, and I always loved his taste in music.
And then we would just listen to the Misfits a lot. Just when we were working. I don't know.
And then we started a band. Hopefully none of you heard it more than once.
Playing in the band with him for the short period of time that I did, I remember he got such a kick out of it that I was actually making effort to play buckets in a band with him. He thought that was pretty stupid and fun.
I feel like one of the big reasons why I've ended up being able to find a place in this town was because of how I was brought into it, and obviously Austin was a big part of that.
Austin was he was a pretty okay dude, using his own words. I always liked how he'd say things like that about when he was talking about somebody else. But yeah, he's definitely gonna be missed. I wish I could have gotten to spend a little bit more time with him, but at the end of the day, I'm extremely glad that I got to spend what time I did with him.
And Austin was always such a sweet presence and very grounding. And I remember so often going to people's houses afterwards to hang out, him always being there. And I just always remember the feeling that he gave me, which was just a feeling of kindness, kind solicitousness, and that nothing was ever about himself, that he was genuinely curious, and he was just a sweetheart.
Upon reconnecting with him recently, about six months ago, maybe a little more, really just kind of called him out of the blue, and we started chatting, and I was asking him if he could maybe kind of come be a live-in nanny for me, essentially, while I went through a kind of major surgery. And he was just, man, he was like extremely excited that I would even consider him for that. And the more we talked about it, I don't know, it dawned on me of just how generous and giving of a person he was, because he just genuinely seemed to care about, what was going to happen, what needed to happen, and how he could help best. And that when I look back and think of that, I start to see how he was like that, pretty much this entire time that I've known him, and working with him back in the day and living with him. It kind of, I don't know how to say it properly, but it dawned on me how just generous that dude is. Like he was always willing to let you in on what he was doing. Like he wanted you to be part of the cool experience that he was experiencing too. And you know, it seems like there's not a lot of people like that you run into. Another thing that I'm just gonna be very grateful for, that I knew him.
And I miss his kind of funny grin, and he always carried kind of a mellow energy around with him. He was real fun to work with, and it was fun to watch cheesy action movies with him. Anyway.
I moved away for a long time, and I didn't see Austin for quite some time. And I just remember when I did bump into him, it's just like we picked up right where we were, and all our silly sayings from the store and all that funniness. And even we got like a good 10-minute laugh out of the armpit hair story again. So I don't know. I'm just gonna miss seeing you around.
And I just remember him asking me, "Hey, man, you want to start a band?" And I said, I don't sing or play any instruments." And he's like, "It doesn't matter. I already booked the show in 3 weeks. We were playing our first show." And so we did, and it was really fun. And that just kind of sums up how Austin was, just a fun guy who would, I don't know, follow his dreams and just do what his heart was telling him to do. And I'm gonna miss him a whole bunch, and I'm glad I got to know him.
After we kind of reconnected, it was like there was really no gap in between us talking, and that was really fun. The last few conversations that I've had with him have just really been great. Still kind of shocked about this current situation, but I'm really grateful that both he and I got to reconnect and be able to talk and just hang out with each other during this time, which has been kind of obviously rough for some people.
And I'm very, very sorry for his family and his friends, and I miss you guys. I love you guys, and you know, those days were nice and fun. And again, I'm very, very sorry to hear about Austin.
Yeah, I wish him well. I wish everybody else who's kind of grieving over this. I hope everybody also is able to come to terms with it. And, you know, we can hopefully all meet up sometime soon and hang out and have a good remembrance for Austin.
Whenever we watched a sad movie at the store and we'd all start tearing up, Miguel would always blame it on the dust. But so it must be really dusty in here right now. But I just wanted to say it was an honor to be your friend. And I'm really gonna miss you.
Just wanted to give this kind of shout out. Just let the world know that you're gonna be missed. Love you, dude.